Hello, insiders. This is Dr. Nancy Trimbley with your Healthcare Arsenal podcast. This podcast is designed for that person who knows there's a better way towards health and wellness. They just don't know what that better way is. And my hope for you is that with each passing episode, you get closer to being your own best expert. Today, we do not have a healthcare practitioner. We have somebody, Javier, who wrote a book called Crushing Cancer. And you and I, our listeners and me, we have been on this journey through stealth health. And in this book, the subtitle is Take Back Your Power and Unravel the Mystery of You. What I teach you in stealth health is how to become your own best expert, to find your first ally, meaning that person that's going to help you on your pathway, how to do your own research, and how to create what I call unexpected discoveries where things may come to you that are going to aid in your path towards health. Javier was referred to me by Stacy Taylor, who was on the podcast recently. She was talking about the IV vitamin supplementation. And she said to me, "Oh my gosh, you have to interview Javier." So here's his book, Crushing Cancer. It just came out this year in 2024. I received it in the mail just yesterday. I've had a chance to, even if you just read the table of contents, you will learn so much. So please buy Javier's book. We'll put the link in the show notes and review it, because I know when you have a book on Amazon, the reviews are everything because they put you higher in that algorithm so more
Sure.
people see that. And more people need to see it. So sorry about the long intro, Javier. Good
Appreciate it. Thank you,
morning.
doctor. Good morning. Good morning.
I'm excited to have you. And I know there's so much we could talk about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, first of all, I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer 4 years ago this month. Yeah, from my understanding, kidney cancer is one of those that does not show any symptoms. It could be too late. And that's what was my case. 4 years ago, I was about 90 to 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I was coming home from the midnight shift, and I stopped for the breakfast of champions, which is some hamburgers. So, right, it's almost kind of funny, and I joke and say that a hamburger or cheeseburger saved my life. Anyway, fast forward, after eating, I felt something odd, and so I got up out of bed and I went to the bathroom, and I thought it was phlegm. It wasn't. It was blood, and I thought it might have been a pimple burst or so forth, but it would not stop. It was just constant blood coming out to the point where I said, I can't drive myself to the ER. I might choke on my own blood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was very rattling. So I called the ambulance. By the time the ambulance got here, it stopped. But I was very shaken because that was just not normal. The ambulance said, you know what? You're just, it might have been just something. We could take you, not take you. I said, you know what? I try to brush it off as nothing. But my intuition said, no, there's something here. Fast forward, I went to the emergency room. They did some x-rays. Doctor comes in and says, you have cancer. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I was in denial for about a month. Fast forward, I did extensive scans, and I found out I had stage 4 kidney cancer. We're talking brain metastasis, thoracic spine, lungs, adrenals, kidneys, pancreas, hip bone, and lymph nodes. So literally everywhere, like 12, over a dozen spots. And I mean, I still get goosebumps just thinking about it because sometimes it eludes me that I'm here 4 years later, despite that. And so that's how I first found out I had it. Um,
And
and
you had no symptoms up until that moment.
tired, fatigued, but I worked a lot. I did shift work, and I averaged it out about 5.9 days a week, 12-hour days and shift work. So, I was literally working almost 70 hours a week,
Wow.
um, chasing the money, which there was a cost to that. And that's how I originally found out. Um, and fast forward about over 2 years, tried immunotherapy, went over to an angiogenesis inhibitor, and just through trial and error, I wasn't getting the results I wanted.
So yeah, so what you sounded like to me, what you did first was you had an oncologist, you had
Yeah,
a cancer doctor, and they recommended the immunotherapy, which
correct.
I've heard others do with cancer. And then you did the hormone therapy. Is that what
Yeah,
you said? The andro.
I did the immunotherapy, and after several months of not getting the results that I wanted, I mean, it wasn't going away. I've always been an avid reader, so I read a lot about different books, and I was familiar with the Gerson therapy, which is IV vitamin C and food. So I did
Hmm.
some research, and I actually went to a clinic down in Mexico for 3 weeks, and that's what really started opening my eyes about the value of food.
Okay, so yeah, let's break that down because I think this is kind of what I talk about in stealth health is we everybody's got their issue in this world today, and so you're on this pathway, you're in the conventional medical model, and you're following your doctor's advice, but you said after months there's no change or
No,
very little.
it's progressing still.
It's still progressing. It's
Yes,
not even stalling it.
right.
So and what I find with some medical doctors is that when it's all an algorithm. It's all like, okay, if this is happening and this test is shows something, then we do this. And then we go for a certain amount of time, and if this is happening, then we do this. And it is treating the symptom or the disease, not the individual.
Right, right,
So you were familiar with this other form of treatment.
right.
How were you familiar with that?
I was, I've always read. I've been an avid reader my whole life. I just really like
Yeah,
reading and learning, and that was just one of the things that I
it was
read
kind of in
about.
the back of your head.
And Gerson, Dr. Gerson in the 50s was curing cancer with food and IV vitamin C.
Uh-huh.
So when I did my searching, I searched for a clinic
Uh-huh.
that was based in Gerson. And so
Right.
I found one in Mexico. And so,
And this is something I always highlight too is that the American conventional medical system wants to not probably eradicate, but downplay or demonize a lot of healthcare tactics that really work, that address the person. So you had to leave the country.
yes. And
And luckily, you speak Spanish.
see, yes.
And how did you feel? I know when you probably found that place, you were probably like, "Oh my gosh, there it is."
Yeah. The travel was difficult because for a period of time there, I was bedridden. I mean, I was in
Oh my
pretty bad
God.
shape. So I had to have a companion go down there with me and stay with me because I was in kind of bad shape. But again, fortunately, I did speak the language. And the biggest thing I got from there was the IV vitamin C, but also the value of food. Just the
Yes.
importance of it was all organic, plant based food. And but to speak to that, I dialed it up a little bit. And what I mean by that, they gave juices and rice, but it was all plant based. In my research and reading, I found it was a good book too, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
that I read, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And,
oh, the
and the reason I bring that up, it talked about how cancer cells or tumors specifically, they have an insatiable appetite for sugar. They consume about 16 times the sugar, or they have 16 times the glucose receptors that normal cells have because they have dysfunctional mitochondria. Just In legal, I mean, in simple terms, the mitochondria are the little energy centers of the cells. They produce energy. A typical mitochondria will take one glucose molecule, produce 36 energy units. Cancer only produces 6. So it's very inefficient metabolism. And so that's why it has an insatiable appetite for glucose. So in reading that book and understanding that, I said, well, I appreciate it being organic food, but I have to even further use food as medicine by going to an organic keto plant-based diet. So that's why my diet is really cruciferous. And the reason cruciferous, they have certain compounds, so fluorophane, which are anti-cancer. So yeah, and I eat
So let me stop for our audience. Cruciferous is cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and
kale,
kale.
cauliflower, right? And so
Wonderful.
I eat those. That's my meals: huge salads, a spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, and raw. Yeah, I know people are like raw. Yeah,
Yes.
I dice up, especially the broccoli. Everybody likes the florets on the broccoli. The stalks have about 10 to 100 times more sulforaphanes than the florets.
Wonderful.
So I
Good to
dice
eat
them
this.
up.
Yes. And you said you're a new member of our community,
Yes.
Undercover Vitality, where I have the Big Bowl course, which was spawned during COVID when all of my friends were posting online. They're making bread, they're making cookies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, stop. You're hurting yourself. So I started the Big Bowl
Mhm.
and it got a lot of traction, and it's all about creating a wonderfully delicious, imaginative big bowl salad. I add proteins to it, and they're always a little bit different. And yeah, I just made
That
a
that
huge, huge.
that's my meal. It's a
Oh,
salad. It's a salad, and I add chicken for some protein, but
hmm,
it's boneless, skinless, chicken tenders, hormone free, antibiotic free.
yes, hmm,
So yeah,
yes. Yes, yeah, we speak the same language. So you use these books as resources,
right.
which is so many people ask me about what they saw on TikTok, and you know what, TikTok is not going to be your primary resource
Yeah,
because those are fads, those are clickbait, those are just what gets people to look. When people write a book like what you wrote, this is where you find the nitty gritty, the truth, and you find the things that are going to lead you on a path to wellness because this is
yeah,
researched, it's
right.
backed up by experience.
And just along the lines of what you just said, doctor, is books. I literally read, I, coming up with my protocol. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over about 2 3 years. Every time I would do a scan, if there was some progression, I'd be like, oh, I got to go back to the drawing board, add something. So I've read dozens of books from doctors and survivors and watched dozens of videos from survivors to come up and try to identify common threads. But the main one, it wasn't until I read Cancer as a Metabolic Disease that hit me.
Hmm,
I have to eliminate sugars.
hmm.
And the other key to bring down blood glucose, and this also does, is fasting. So
Yes.
I intermittent fast daily from 16 to 20 hours. Yes, it's a water fast because I have it started in my kidney cancer, so I have to stay hydrated. I can't afford,
Sure.
so
Oh yeah,
I stay
definitely.
hydrated. And also 2 days a week I do a complete fast. The reason, say, why would I? There's a biological process called autophagy. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's
I
where
was not until I saw that word in your book, so please explain.
autophagy comes. It's two words combined together. Greek words, auto and autophagy. It's self-eating. The body kind of goes in. And what it really is house cleaning. When we don't have calories coming in, the body goes, oh, I need to do some house cleaning because I don't have energy. So it looks at damaged cells, which I believe are cancer cells, and it consumes them and recycles them for the sake of saving the organism. But that only kicks in after about 16 hours. So that's why I do those daily. And the interesting thing is, I do a 2 day fast a week. And while I do that 2 day fast, I administer IV vitamin C high dose to cause damage because the cancer cells love vitamin C. It confuses it for sugar and it causes damage to them. And in my mind, if they're damaged, they're more visible to the immune system. So
Wow, that's brilliant.
trial and error over 2 years. And that was the interesting thing. I did not start seeing regression despite doing all these other things until I started fasting 2 days a week. That's when the tumor started shrinking. Yeah, so that was, who would want to stop eating? It's a challenging thing, let alone 2 days. So, but that's what halted things from progression. Is
Wow.
when I started fasting 2 days a week and administering the vitamin C at that point in time.
Right.
So, so
Now, just a question mark I have. So you were in the conventional medical model. You went outside of that. You realized that um, food was the secret, and
yes,
you and so did you circle back to the conventional medical model?
I. That's a great question, doctor. One of my philosophies is, or the core philosophy that I use in healing, is help my body help itself. Uh, the body comes with an incredible self healing program, but we just have to treat it the way, since I have an engineering background, the way it was designed. And in the book, I talk about a 200,000 year time travel. What was available back then? And so that's how I treat the body. It wasn't all this crazy. There was no delivery. There was no my favorite food, pizza. None of those
There's
things.
no Starbucks.
No Starbucks. Drinks hopped up with all kind of sugar. It was hard work to get food. You had to wake up and work hard.
True.
So I think that's why the fasting and the not eating, our body is inherently designed for it. And it'll switch into a mode for self preservation. And so,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. What was it? If you don't mind, what was interesting to me is that I thought of that just really didn't make sense to me until I read that book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, that the primary objective of any organism is survival.
Mhm.
So it didn't make sense. Why would cancer, once it invades our body, because it's our own cells, and it progressing, it actually kills itself. It
It
didn't.
kills the host. Yeah, why? It's a
It,
great question.
yeah, it didn't make sense to me until it doesn't. It has unlimited fuel, so it has the capacity. It thinks it has unlimited fuel because of our diet. We're eating so many carbs, so many sugars, that it thinks it has unlimited fuel, and and it has and it can switch to, how can I say, a very less efficient metabolism, which is using sugar. Like I said, it creates only 6 ATPs versus 36. So it thinks it has the ability to do that, that it's in an environment where it has an abundance of that.
It thinks it's invincible.
Yeah, well, it thinks it has unlimited fuel now, so it could be inefficient. And by fasting and depriving it of sugar, I'm hoping, my belief is that epigenetics make that switch back to, wait, we can't afford this anymore. We have to, hey, get, we have to go back to the more efficient energy production in the
All
mitochondria.
right. So I see what you're saying. You're saying that our own cells become cancer cells almost because of there's so much sugar. Like, I'm just going to go to the lazy way. I'm
Yeah,
going to go to the lazy way.
yeah, exactly.
But then once you deprive it, it says, okay, I got to go back to normal now.
Yes.
and I have to go back to creating 36 AT or is it
Yes,
36 ATP?
yes.
36 ATP per molecule of glucose. Okay. And so that's how you reverse it. It's not like um well I guess some of the cancer cells are eaten up and destroyed, but some of them just flip back to normal. Is that what you're saying?
Or it prevents from creating new ones.
Yes.
I wish I knew. I wish I
Right, I know.
wish
I'm
I had
asking like you got binoculars into your
to do the
body.
research. Well, the millions or tens of millions of dollars to do the research. That's just kind of my hypothesis.
Right. Oh, no, that's brilliant. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
And
That makes so much
like
sense.
and I came to that because I didn't start getting results until I started doing these fasts. Despite doing everything else, what changed? The only thing that changed was the fasts. So, and when I read that book about cancer as a metabolic disease as opposed to genetic, that's when it kind of clicked in.
Now, I've always said to my patients, and being a chiropractor, I look at posture, I look at gait, how people move, and people will say to me, uh, I've got the same thing my mom is getting. And I know the mom because I've been practicing now 30 years. I know the mom and I know this adult woman. And I'll say, you know what I think it is? It's a learned habit of posture.
Mm,
So I wonder in this regard with you, Javier, people learn how to eat and they learn their attitudes
yeah.
towards food.
Wow, doctor. That's wow. That's wow, you gave me the chills because that was pretty profound what you just said to me when I started on this journey and I switched my eating habits. Literally, it's like, well, if I can't eat this, what am I going to eat? Literally, it was like, what am I going to eat? So I had to make a list because every time I said, I wanted whatever my cheeseburger, I'm like,
Hmm.
well, if it's not it, what am I going to eat? So I literally had to have a list in front of me till I conditioned myself to stop going to what I was programmed to eat. So every time I got hungry, what can I eat? So I made a list. And then over time, my palate changed. And now it's hard for me to eat.
Hmm.
If I'll treat myself one meal a week. And the other day is like, I don't even want that anymore. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I didn't want my cheeseburgers anymore, which was
Right.
really like, wow, I couldn't believe it.
You
It
don't even
takes
want it.
discipline, but I don't want that anymore. I said, yeah, you know what? Let me go eat my big salad with some chicken tenders.
Absolutely. And that is so when you wake up and you crave broccoli, you know you've made it. Right?
Yeah,
And you do I get to that. I'm like, I gotta have some cabbage today. I
yeah,
mean, and this morning even I was eating carrot and kohlrabi, which I got from my organic farmer. Oh my gosh,
well,
so delicious.
yes, yes, yes. Red
So
cap,
now
red cap.
with you, I love cabbage. So one pillar, you said there's four pillars. One pillar is help my body help itself because our body is the 200,000-year-old model
Yes, yeah,
and we are a self-healing organism. So just help my body to help
yeah.
itself. What's the second pillar?
Yeah. There's food that's in food fasting, fasting. Because when I looked in the book, I wrote that section of 200,000 year time travel, and like I said, it's not like I woke up, oh, I'm hungry, let me go to the refrigerator. It was let me wake up and see what berries I could find or nuts or maybe small game. I don't think we ate meat in the amounts that's available today. You'd be lucky if you caught a bird or a rabbit or something, and then you came back and shared it. It's not like you were like, oh, well, let me get this big 24-ounce steak.
Right.
So yeah, so food, and then when you woke up, it might be hours before you found anything. So fasting, and then to get it, you didn't just go to your fridge. You might have to walk and walk and walk and walk. So exercise. Yeah. And then obviously the last one, and I think is important, is supplements and targeted medicine. I when I say targeted medicine, I'm very thankful for the new medicines that are actually coming out that are targeted. It's not the old chemo that's systemic, which I refused. I was not going to do it. And my reason being, the old traditional chemo, basically, I've known too many people that went through it. Oh, you're fine. 6 months later, there's nothing we could do for you. And in my reading, because it decimated the immune system. My philosophy is to build up the immune system, help it, help my body help itself. And there's a supplement that I take that actually boosts the immune system. It's AHCC, it's a mushroom extract. And so that was these four things are what resonated with me. And obviously, the modern targeted therapies, the one that I do take, from my understanding, tumors have very weak uh, blood vessel systems, so it targets that. It's an angiogenesis inhibitor. It just prevents tumors from glowing blood vessels.
Ah, ah.
Yeah.
And it's an angiogenesis inhibitor. So to break apart that Latin word root, angio is blood vessel, I think.
I believe,
Angiogenesis,
yeah,
is that what?
create blood vessel creation, yes.
Blood vessel creation. Genesis is the beginning. So blood vessel creation, and it's a blood vessel creation inhibitor. It stops blood vessels from forming. So cancer cells are already lacking blood supply
Yeah, and they have weak blood vessels, from my
and
understanding.
weak blood
Yeah.
vessels. So the target, and by targeted, the only thing I can relate to with targeted is messenger RNA. I know back 15 years ago was used for cancer patients
Mm,
to like they put a tag on the cancer cell, and then this RNA molecule went in and like inserted something into the DNA
yeah.
of those targeted cells.
I think
So
that's
what
T
do you
cell.
mean
I
by,
think that's T cell therapy.
is
T.
that T cell therapy?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's I think on the forefront. Um, that was one of the things that I asked about, but I don't know if it's quite there. I think that might be a last result because if it goes haywire, it could eat everything.
Right,
From my
right, right,
understanding.
right,
But
right.
and I think that's one of the beauties, though, of the way they're looking at cancer now is they're subscribing to the philosophy that I subscribe to is help your body help itself. I mean, we have a built-in healing mechanism, but let's use it.
Yes,
So
yes. And when I'm doing my live videos for my community and talking about food, I will say many times, this is one of my mottos. We're not 10 years old. We don't have to have sugar 24/7. Like just stop already.
yes,
Like you don't need sugar or in your tea. You don't need just stop.
yeah,
Like what's wrong with
yeah,
us?
yeah. I don't add sugar. My main drink is water. I mean, water
Hmm.
constantly, and I do juicing, but it's organic celery juice because it's low in sugar. But I eat it with my drink it during my eating window, and because it has all the like the vitamin C. I do believe that vitamin C is critical, but I don't like it with coming with a lot of sugar. So celery juice has vitamin C, vitamin K, which helps vitamin C, it increases the efficacy, and so versus regular like OJ having 120 calories, celery juice only has like 30.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. And looking at the whole food, like you might do IV supplementation
I
of
do
vitamin C,
regularly.
but also this celery juice is has synchronistic other molecules in it that work better for your body.
Yes, yes, I believe there's synergy there. Correct,
Hmm.
correct. Celery,
Um,
yeah, could have some sulforaphanes. Yep. So yes, I do believe that, and it's low in sugar, and that's one of the things that I did get from Dr. Gerson. That's what he did, juicing. You know, but like I said, I kind of dialed it up and let me get the good parts from the juice and stay away from the sugar.
Yeah, I teach that. I have a course called Lean Clean Belly Routine, and a lot of people suffer from candida, gut candida,
Mhm.
and juicing is great, but if you have gut candida, you have to stay away from those sugary vegetables. You just have to.
Mm.
So I'm not a proponent for juicing when you have gut candida because you're just feeding the candida then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And let's see, with the celery juice, I learned about that from the medical medium. Um, I saw a lot of people turn their health around with celery juice. Where do you get your celery from?
Well, it's kind of challenging to make it. I did for a while, but now I just buy Whole Foods.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did see that in here. Is it a powder or it's already made
it's a
juice?
juice. Yeah, it's kind of pricey, but by the time I get done buying it and juicing it, it kind of translates into the same. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
what I like it. It's organic, cold pressed. So I would hope
Yes.
it retains as much of its nutritional value versus being like heated or processed.
Right.
Right.
And the proof is in the pudding, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's
There's
pricey,
a book.
but I have to do what I have to do. So
Oh, exactly. Your path on this earth is just beginning. Like your whole like message is so relevant right now when we are finally looking at food as the enemy into the American society and all these chronic issues and just multiplying every year.
yeah.
And when I look around at what people are putting in their mouth, I'm like, what are you like? Are you insane? No, you're not insane. You're addicted. People are
Yes.
addicted to bad
Absolutely.
food.
Yeah. And yeah, it to me it going through this path and having lost all this weight is like one of those. I wish I'd have known then what I know now, and I see things way differently, and it does kind of sadden me just the availability of foods and how they're promoted, and that food is not used as medicine. Well, now it's used as medicine because I think we deviated so far away from what real food is, and including myself, I didn't know what real food is. And the best description that I came across: single ingredient items. An apple's an apple. A Brussels sprout is a Brussels sprout. Mushroom's a mushroom. And so that's kind of what I look at now. If you got to read a label and there's 20 different things, probably not real food. So
That's what I say. If you read a label, and I don't look at like how much protein or salt, whatever. I look at the ingredients. If I have those things in my kitchen, it's probably okay, probably. But if there's things on there that I can't read,
okay,
no,
right.
no. That is and it's going to take a bit for people to understand that. Like you said, you didn't even know what real food was.
No, I didn't. I thought
You
I.
thought a cheeseburger was real food.
It was for a long time.
Yeah. There's a book called Primal Diet, Primal Mind, and it's just about what you said. We are the 200,000-year-old model.
Yes.
And that author, she talks about if you can be very strict with yourself and for 2 weeks stay away from simple carbohydrates, pasta, potatoes, crackers, cookies, sugar. Just stay away from that 2 weeks. Your metabolism will flip. And instead of relying on sugar for fuel, your body will flip to relying on fat for fuel.
Mm.
And when I was going through my mystery and unraveling my mystery with my gut issues, I did that. After 2 weeks, I grabbed, I think it was a saltine or
Mhm.
some kind of cracker and ate it. It tasted like sand in my mouth. It was revolting.
Yes.
And I urge people that are going through any kind of health challenge, just get rid of the sugar, and especially if it's a gut issue, just get rid of the sugar. Just really do this for yourself, and it can flip. You can flip your cravings and your desires just by doing that.
Yeah, along those lines, doctor, I think one of the worst things that we do to ourselves is consuming our calories, sugar in all these drinks. Yeah, I you know, it's I just think it's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Consuming, you drink a pop, 120 calories, it's all sugar.
Yep.
There's really very low nutritional value. It's all sugar.
Talk about a list of ingredients you can't
Yeah,
read, too.
I just remember I used to drink pop. 700 calories a day in sugar.
Wow.
Yeah, you drink 3 4 pops a day. You're 140 calories. You're drinking 6 700 calories just in sugar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Right. And we're in the Midwest, so I'm right on the edge of the cornfields. And I looked at the cornfields a few weeks ago and I'm like, I know we're not eating all this corn. Where is all this going?
high
And
fructose corn syrup.
it what? Corn syrup.
High
Exactly.
fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. There's all these different additives that are put into foods made with corn. Corn gets subsidized by the US government billions of dollars a year. Yet our family farms that are growing real food get zero subsidies from the government. And I feel like this is where we change. This is where we change things. Whether it'll happen when I'm alive, I don't know. But
Interesting point, like along the lines of subsidies, because I mentioned to people, I buy organic and they're like, it's more costly. I said, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. So you get to choose, and the way that I eat now too, believe me, if I eat a beet, I dice it up small. It's not like I'm gonna be, wow, I want another whole beet. I just eat to get full. It doesn't kick in the craving mechanisms. It was interesting because I read a book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, what we
hmm
added to our foods to kick in our craving mechanisms. And when you eat kale, I assure you, you're not gonna be, wow, you know, eat it.
I have a recipe for massaged kale where I massage it with olive oil and salt
Okay, okay.
with with sea
I
salt.
use olive oil. I do use olive oil. So yeah, it's good for you. So yeah, well that was kind of that's kind of one of my arguments when people say, well, it's too expensive. Well, on two fronts, you're not going to crave and want to keep eating, and two, you don't need to eat as much.
No, you don't.
And then down the road, you're going to pay to try to regain
Oh
your
my
health.
gosh. Oh my gosh. And there's an Indian proverb that is the man with his health has many wishes. The man who lacks his health has but one.
Yes.
And you don't remember how horrible it is to be sick until you are sick.
Yeah.
And then you
I,
do, your whole world is focused on that one
and
thing.
that's a great point, doctor, because that's where I'm at right now. I try not to focus on it. I try to live in the moment and be joyful for another day. I'm very cognizant of the diagnosis and what I'm dealing with. But yes, you're absolutely right, because every day I'm on the quest for getting rid of this. It's about 50% gone, which is
Wow.
great, as opposed to having a
Yes.
prognosis of 3 to 6 months to live, 3 or 4 years later. But yeah, that is, well, you gave me goosebumps, because that is so true. I wake up every day and it's like, how am I going to beat this? How am I going to get rid of this? So yeah,
Yeah, I admire you. I admire you, and I admire anyone that's facing that because it is a full-time job. Yeah. So, Javier, this has been an amazing conversation. I've been getting the chills all conversation too. That was awesome. I love that conversation. You are such an expert. You're more of a metabolic expert than a lot of medical doctors I know.
yeah,
And you have to be.
yeah. That's what I learned along the way, after seeing a few doctors and even having a bad experience, because I had extensive metastasis. As a pulmonologist, did a biopsy via my lungs, and afterward, it didn't make any sense. He did two failed biopsies, And I said, this guy being a doctor, he should have known it started in my kidneys. Why did he do two failed biopsies? Just wanted to pad the bill. That
Yeah.
was my, and so I didn't like that, but at the same time, I was appreciative because I learned a lesson that at that point, nobody was going to be responsible for me except me.
Yes.
And so after that, I started questioning everything, you know,
Yes.
and not in a rude, condescending way, but it's like, why are they doing that? I went to a doctor in Chicago. They wanted to do something. I said, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't. It's not resonating with me and my reading and so forth. And so I didn't. Went back 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later. He goes, "Wow, I had a tumor in my thoracic spine that was infringing." They said if it hit my thoracic spine, I would have been paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh my
I
gosh.
said, "I have an idea. Give me." He goes, "I'm not going to give you 3 months." I said, I'm okay." He goes, "We're going to give you 6 weeks and we'll scan again." And that's when I started fasting 2 days a week. I went back 6 weeks later. He goes, "Wow, I don't know what you did, but keep doing it." That was when fasting 2 days a week I started. So fasting is just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a story.
Thank you, doctor.
One last question. I did not preview this question to you. If you had a billboard for all to see, what would it say?
Pardon me? If I had a billboard,
hmm If you had a billboard for all to see, what would it say?
real food is medicine, is health, is wealth. Real food. Real food. Not just what we eat, but how we eat. Let your body reset at least 12 hours between, your last meal of the day and your first. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Javier, you're on my prayer list now.
Thank you, doctor.
And
Thank you very much.
it was so wonderful to talk to you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.
And for our audience, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been your healthcare arsenal. And my goal for you is that with each passing episode, you get closer to being your own best expert. Bye for now.
All right. Take care. Thank you.